Survivor's Guide to True Crime includes discussions of sexually based violence and is not intended for children. Information provided should not be used as a substitute for professional medical or legal advice. Please exercise discretion and self-care.
Hey, Kim.
Hey, Kara. Welcome back to Survivor's Guide to True Crime.
This week, we're doing something a little different because I have basically felt like death. Turns out being pregnant at 36, not quite the same as being pregnant at 26, 27. Who would have thought? If only someone would afford me.
If only my friend Kim would have said, "Gah."
I know.
Why do you want to do that?
Listen, I know it'll be worth it. And here is the update. I said, I'm going to positively manifest that I'm not going to be as sick. And honestly, I don't think I am as sick this time as I was my last pregnancy.
Oh,
What is that? Why are you drinking it if it tastes that bad?
I was talking about you being sick. That's delicious.
Oh, both times you've taken a sip, you've gone, ooh.
Well, the first time I spilled on my crotch, and that time you're talking about pregnancy illness.
Yeah.
Like, this is great.
Yeah.
I love my situation over here.
Okay. But for real, I actually have not been as sick this time. It's just hitting me harder. And then I've had some fun extra issues happening. So I basically was just kind of like out of commish from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So today's the first day that I feel relatively normal. So here we are recording.
Kara, when do you want to record? Kara, when do you want to record? I can't sit up.
Every time I open my mouth, I was like, I'm going to throw up. So that doesn't really bode well for like sitting up and talking for an hour.
I will say, though, I am excited about the interviews that we do have scheduled to bring you in the coming weeks. This one is just, it's us. Hello.
It's just us. You guys love us anyway, so here we are.
This is a little kind of what you get on Patreon anyway.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
think of it as a sneak peek.
Just us vibing.
But actually, we were having this conversation before we started recording, and I want to continue it because just delightful. In our relationships, I feel like there's people who worry and stress about everything, and then those who just skip through the flower fields. They find each other and marry each other. And Kara and I are the ones who are like, it's going to be fine. We don't have to worry about it. It'll work itself out. We can be optimistic people. And our husbands are not.
And Kim said, how funny is it that we would be the ones that are like that? And I was like, well, obviously we are, because we've already been through it. We're like, what's the worst that could happen? And it's like, well, we've already been through what's the worst that could happen. So we're just like, we'll figure it out.
What are the chances of the worst that it could happen twice?
Right. So yeah, it's so funny that we are
the
like
irony.
That. Yeah. So I'm curious if any of you who have also been through difficult things, like, did it make you a worrier where you're now worried about everything? Or did it make you like, I got through all that other stuff. I'm gonna get through this too. Yeah. I think there was some actual wheezing happening when we were having this conversation, which
I will say, though, I don't think that this is a product of what happened to me. I was like this before. I'm just always, for those of you into Enneagram, I'm a 7.
And I'm a 9.
I have ADHD. I had a very nice little bubble, wonderful, idyllic childhood. And I'm pretty happy-go-lucky anyway. So that didn't just go away when something god-awful happened. It just made my jokes funnier. I don't know. Yeah. I've always just been like, it'll work out. He'll get arrested. It'll be fine.
Me, on the other hand, I'm an Enneagram 9. But what's funny is most of my closest friends, like 75% of the people that I'm closest to are 7s as well, because we are always like, what's the worst that could happen, right? But the difference with how I handle it is I'm just like, I'll just bury my head in the sand and it'll
if I ignore it, it'll go away.
Yeah. You'd got to do the same thing. You're just like, I don't know, just put it in a box over there. It gives me feelings.
It's not even a conscious decision. Mike always says, he's like, how do you just lay down and instantly go to sleep at night? Don't you have thoughts? I'm like, I don't know. Can't remember. Peace out. I'm tired.
Yeah, it reminds me of that clip from New Girl where it's like, you just go around all day thinking about what other people are feeling. That's what Schmidt says to Jess. And Jess goes, yes. Yeah. And he's like, how do you get anything done? She's like, it's really hard. I'm like, Yeah. How you get through life like that? I don't know. Worrying about what other people feel about you. I mean, in all seriousness, if that's you and you do that, we are not laughing at you. We're laughing at us.
Right.
So, it takes all types to
Laugh with us.
yeah, it takes all types to make the world go round. But yeah, I laugh at that new girl thing.
I know you're a sucker for metaphors, and I saw a video that really put into perspective how my brain works, and I'm thinking you will probably feel the same way. Although you're pretty good with like administrative sort of tasks and knocking them out. So this guy was talking about what it's like to get ready in the morning as someone who has ADHD, and he starts making a list of the things that he needs to do. But he writes the first thing on his list, and then he writes the second thing right over top of the first thing, and then the third over top of both of those. And so eventually it's just, I wrote down all of the things that I need to do, and they're all in scribbles. And I was standing at the sink this morning brushing my teeth. Mike's asking me about what I had to do today, and I'm like, that's all that I could see in my head were all of the scribbles. And that's pretty accurate. That's what's going on in my brain.
I don't have that level of executive dysfunction. I tend to be pretty decent at figuring out like what needs to be done before something else. I think that's just because I have a solid one wing. It used to be, I didn't know if I was a 9 or a 1, like they were that strong. And now I have days where I'm like, am I actually an 8? So that's how I know that I actually am a 9. But yeah, so I live for a list and like, what is the most efficient way to do this? What makes sense? Like when I run my errands, there's a certain way I run my errands because there's an efficient way to do it. I start closest and then I make as many right-hand turns as possible. There's a way to do things.
I do that with my grocery list. My written down lists, those are helpful. Don't get me wrong. But if I'm trying to keep track of something in my mind, no.
Yeah, it's gone.
I am a 7-wing butterfly. Butterfly in the sky.
Yes, that's definitely you. With wing 8?
Yes, I am. For those of you who have not done that test, we can put a link in the notes. There's a free version that you can take an Enneagram test if you haven't already.
Do you feel like it's accurate? I feel like the people that are the least likely to take it, or honestly to just give a damn, are 8s and 5s. So if you're just like, I don't give a shit, then you're probably an 8 or a 5. And the people that don't want, they're like, I'm not like anybody else. Well, hey, you're a 4.
One of the hallmarks is that you're not supposed to type other people, and we're not all one thing. You have aspects of all of the different things in one. It's just, what is your driving motivation?
Yeah. It's like your core fears.
Yeah. I've seen many a psychologist talk about how personality tests are no more accurate than horoscopes. Oh my God, don't come for me. Like, there are some people who are real into all of these things, but they all have this strong psychological backing of seeking something that you may already know about yourself, but you need that validation externally. And I love that part of this because it gives you something to explore. And as long as you're not excusing your behaviors, but instead trying to figure out the best ways that will work for you through these different things, they can be really helpful. But if you're basing your entire personality off of something that someone came up with many, many years ago, and they're going to assign you 4 letters and that's how you're going to live the rest of your life, probably not so much.
I found Enneagram to be the most enlightening for me as far as like, oh, that's why I do that thing. Like it has been a growth tool for me more than anything. Not in a way that's like, oh, it's an excuse, but like that is how my brain works because I don't often understand why I'm doing the things I do. So when I see it explained by someone else whose brain works similarly to mine, I'm like, yes, that's it. But it also has been extremely helpful for me in my relationships, like loving people. Specifically, my husband, it's been like really helpful for me and him because he can look at the things that I'm doing and he's like, oh, you're not doing that because you're indecisive. You're doing it because you don't want to disappoint me with your decision or, whatever that is. So it's a really good relational tool too. I also highly, highly recommend, yes, take the test. I think it's a good place to start, but follow a few accounts on Instagram and get a feel for what they're posting about the different numbers. And it'll be pretty obvious pretty quick if you're consuming that, I think.
Yep.
9s can be kind of hard to type because they're indecisive and sometimes they can take on the personalities of others. So
it's also a trauma response.
Yeah, right. I know.
I would be interested to see an Enneagram specifically for trauma survivors, because I know that like you go in different ways when you do a personality test for like times of stress or whatever it is. But what about those who learn to operate at a different level? And
okay. Yeah. So yes, but I've also seen someone break it down. I have to see if I can find it. or if I can find something similar. I've seen someone break it down where it's like how your childhood shapes who you are as an Enneagram.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. So you could be like, oh, that's why I'm a peacemaker. Why am I a peacemaker? Why do I sometimes have trouble saying how I feel?
A lot of things are clicking into place for me over here.
Right? I know. Probably for our listeners too.
Oh my gosh. My mom was very spontaneous and had this huge arts and crafts drawer for us. Not necessarily encouraged mess,
That sounds
but allowed us space and the autonomy to do and create things in our own way. And I took that as I am in charge. You need to do this my way. And if you're not going to do it this way, then you can't play with me and you can make your own thing or whatever it is. And now I think about the way that I parent and I'm like, please stop mixing the Play-Doh colors together. I can't. My eyes twitching. I hate mess. I don't understand how I as a person thrived in that environment, but I can't stand it. Mostly because nobody ever picks up after themselves. Ever.
It's different when you're a mom. Like, so one of the tips that I kind of forgot that I used to give people all the time that I found myself talking about recently is how if you feel stressed, if like you feel like your adrenals are out of balance, your cortisol is out of balance, and especially if you are the primary caregiver, you're the mother, like whatever, you're the default human in your house, whatever that looks like, even if you live alone, whenever you look around your house, every single thing that you see in some way, shape, or form logs somewhere in your brain as something that you have to do something with, take care of, clean. Like, girl, I haven't told you. See, it obviously wasn't on the podcast because I haven't had this conversation with you because we were talking about it a little bit with the notifications. So one of the first things that I would tell people, so whenever I was at my worst, for you guys who can't see Kim, she's just like shocked and flabbergasted. When I was at my worst and my cortisol, I had it tested. It was literally like, it was 0. It was like 0.01. You're supposed to have like some cortisol. I had like none. And so I was like, okay, cool. I'm stressed all the time. How do I not be stressed? My husband's out of the country. I have 2 kids that, 2.5 years apart. I have a baby. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And so I started systematically decluttering my spaces of what I saw, one room at a time, starting with the room that I was in the most, which was the kitchen. And so when I did that, my stress levels dramatically began to decrease because as a mom who's solo parenting at that time, 2 little children who aren't doing anything, I would come downstairs every day, first thing in the morning, and I would immediately be stressed because I would look around. I'd be like, I didn't do those dishes. I got to do something, pile of mail. I got to do, right? And so I'm just somewhere in the back of my mind making this subconscious list of all the things that need to be done. So anyway, that's just one of the tips that I completely forgot I used to give people all the time when I was health coaching. That's one of those simple things you can do to decrease your stress. I know you have a whole lot to say. Let's go.
All I'm sitting here thinking of is the mental list that you're making and I wouldn't even call me a default parent. Mike and I divide our labor and the things that we do really, really well, but because probably we ran separate households before we were married with kids. So we are used to that. There is I don't feel the same mom pressure I think a lot of people do or default parent pressure. However, if you're making that mental list of all of the things that you're walking around your house seeing and you're writing them on top of each other at the same time, I was like, oh yeah, it's not that I don't want to finish projects. It's that I will be doing something. And in the course of doing that, find a million other things that I know that I need to be doing. And God forbid I have a bad day mentally and have to completely like put all of that aside. Then I'm starting right back over and I have more to catch up on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even if you're co-parenting,
I'm not
yeah, no, totally. Like, even if you're co-parenting, Joe and I co-parent at this point, I feel like I carry a lot more of the mental, emotional burden of the well-being of our family. And then there's certain things that I see, right, about the house and what needs to be done. And there's certain things that he sees. And so to me, it feels like I'm doing all these things. And to him, obviously, it feels like I'm doing all these things. So anyway, all that to say, declutter your space that you're in the most. See what happens. If it's your office.
I'm going to send you a picture.
Yeah.
I have a doom pile under my desk.
I'm sure you do. Just put it in a box. Just as long as you can't see it, it's fine. So like if it's your office that you spend all your time in, if it's your kitchen than you spend a lot of time in, your living room, whatever. And I would tell people the funny thing is that I would even, if you have a beautifully decorated mantle, consider what might happen if you had less stuff on your mantle. What might happen if you had less stuff on your walls or whatever. And it's simple, but I don't know. For me, it felt like literally the weight of the house was lifted off my shoulders and I could breathe again, just so I could have like enough breathing room to begin to take care of my family and myself, basically. To look at this picture now.
We're pretty minimalist anyway, but there are a few places like the picture I just sent you of my doom pile under my desk. If I put it away though, nothing will happen. If it's here and it's annoying me, I will eventually get so annoyed that I have to do something about it. But like sound insulation padding, I don't know what to do with that. That's waiting for me to make enough money to redo my office into a studio.
Right.
And so it's just going to chill there with the return labels that we got for free from, I don't know, something.
Listen,
and by the way, intermixed with evidence discs of my case. Cool.
I mean, listen, we definitely are minimalist, but we also live in a very small space. So it's just like there's crap everywhere and I can't stand seeing crap everywhere. So other updates though. Pretty sure that we have decided on a builder. We're going to meet him tomorrow at the land. And he feels pretty confident. Like he was like, all right, so what would be your best case scenario goal to be in the house before the baby's born? And I was like, yeah, I know that's probably not that realistic though. So I'm not really like aiming for that. And he was like, yeah, no, that's not a big deal. And I was like, what?
Oh, you're still in your first trimester.
Right. Yeah. I'll be 9 weeks on Thursday. But he also later on in the conversation was like, yeah, I have a family that I got them in their house and I told him I'd have them in their house in 6 months. And I'm pretty sure I'm getting them in almost a month early. And I was like, what? I was like, that's freaking awesome. I know.
Okay.
I know. So we're going to show him like our plans. He's going to come and look at the land. We're going to show him our plans and see what he thinks. And, I know. I'm like, I might actually be having my baby not in a camper because.
Okay.
Yeah, I know you want to talk what you're talking about. What's your question, Kim?
You texted me yesterday.
What is it, Kim?
Kara texted me yesterday to tell me that she thinks that they've decided on doing a home birth. And I'm like,
what?
Where are you going to
Why don't you want to have your baby in a hospital?
I'm like, are you going to do it in the living room with Ty watching over you, on top of your bed in the RV, or next to the chicken nuggets? Because what is this?
It might be outside in the lake. Is that frowned upon to have babies in the lake in February? Probably.
Oh, I was like, yeah, probably in February. What do you do? Like, that's always been one of when I had my kids, my first, I think by the time my second rolled around or just fell out, whatever. Hold on. Not to go completely off the rails there. I forgot the rest of the conversation. All I could think of was, you had your baby in an RV.
Yeah.
Did anybody else used to watch I don't like reality TV. However, there were a select few that I would just have on in the background that were completely delightful to me. And one of them was TLC's I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant. Like, please tell me.
I did not watch this. So for you guys.
I have got to track this clip down. And it was early 2000s again. I would have been in college probably watching this, but I just remember there was this girl talking about the fact that there's a name for it when you're pregnant, but like you literally can't, you can't see it. It does not look like
I went to high school with. She was pregnant after high school. She was pregnant and she like never even knew. I don't know if she was missing her cycles or what. She didn't really show that much. And she literally went to the doctor one day and they were like, ma'am, you are 8 months pregnant. She was like, what?
Oh, shit.
Oh yeah,
but that's like, oh god, it's gonna bug me, and I'll think of the name. But your stomach basically just doesn't distend. Words
distend.
Get big, pull in its own gravitational orbit.
I was like, get bigger. Yeah,
but you could still have your cycle, or maybe you had an irregular cycle beforehand. Right. Whatever the case may be. Apparently this is common enough to make a show out of it. Right. And there's this girl who was being driven to the hospital because she thought like an appendix burst or something. And she is talking straight to the camera and she goes, I just looked down and there was a baby in my sweatpants.
That is so bizarre to me. As someone who has had a natural labor, I'm like, my old boss at the sheriff's department, the last person that I worked for, she was like, I literally had no labor pains. And I was like, I'm sorry, ma'am, what?
What?
She was like, yeah, I didn't get an epidural or anything because I had no pain during labor at all. I was like, that sounds like a genetic anomaly. How do I get that gene?
Well, Ian, you want to discuss different types of trauma and what an enneagram would look like if it were related to traumas. Birth is a huge one that ranks right up there. But imagine your labor pains if you know you were pregnant. You'd think you were dying.
I mean, I don't know how you get, like, okay, I had some pretty bad gas before, so I can see how you get up to a certain point. But once you start closing in on transition, you're like, I might die. I don't know if I'm going to survive this. I remember asking my doula, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I had like a brief moment to breathe. And I was like, am I in transition? I was like, is this transition? And she was like, yeah. I said, does everyone beg to quit during transition? And she was like, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So at that point, I was like, it's almost over, you know?
Yeah. There's only one way that this ends.
Right. I know. I was like, there's so many like irrational thoughts. I think about it. It was the same as when I was so seasick on that boat. When you're so miserable and you have so many irrational thoughts. Like when I was on that boat, we're literally in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean, right? There's no ports. There's nowhere they can take me to. And I'm like, dump me in the ocean. I'll swim. It's so miserable. Like, so, you know, and then I don't know if everyone has these sort of irrational thoughts, but I definitely do when I'm miserable. So when I'm like in transition in labor with my second, and I'm like, just take me to the operating room and just cut him out. Like, can we just be done with this? I don't want to do it anymore. And it's like, no, at that point, like he's in the freaking birth canal, basically. Like, no, you can't do anything. So anyway, I'm really looking forward to doing it again.
I can't remember if I told you this story on here or if it was on our Patreon or if it was just us bullshitting. When I was in for my second labor and delivery with our daughter, I got the epidural. Well, I was induced. And by the time that I was in for my scheduled induction, I was already in labor. But I got the Pitocin anyway, slowed it down majorly. Doctor goes home because he's like, all right, you're not really progressing a whole lot. Well, I'm laying on my side because I have an epidural, get a little sleep and stuff. And I'm like, what is that sound? Oh my God. What is that sound? Who's doing? What is that? My mom is standing at my feet just laughing. I am farting and I can't feel it. I can hear it.
That's so weird.
It was so discerning. I was like,
so
oh my
weird.
God. You can't stop it. You can't hold it. It just.
Oh my God. That's so strange. I didn't even think about that.
Ghost farts. But then I was like, so that had happened. And I was like, I'm going to have this baby. And the nurse is like, I had just checked you like 45 minutes ago, an hour ago. You were only at 5. I was like, no. So she gets down there. She's like, oh, let me call the doctor. Let's just see how one push is going to go. And I was like, she's like, cross your legs. He'll be back in just a second. And 2 pushes is all it took for her to
First of all, that is like the most infuriating thing in the world to me when they're like, don't push.
I know. I'm like, oh,
that is like when you literally feel that watery feeling in your mouth and you feel like the bile and someone's like, don't throw up. And you're like, you okay? Like, anyway, because that happened to me. Like they came in and they checked me and they were like, you're 9 centimeters, you're not ready. And the nurse walked out and I looked at my doula and I was like, this baby is coming out. Like my body is saying, get it out. Like you can't not push.
Right.
And they came back in and they're like, you're not dilated enough. Please don't push. The doctor's not in here. And I was like, and my doula looked at me. She was like, oh, yeah. You can push if you want. I can catch the baby. She's like, she was like almost a midwife at that point. She was like, go ahead and push. I was like, how am I going to not push?
Right. Like you can't
ridiculous thing in the world. It's like, don't crap your pants right now when you have IBS. Good luck. Trust me, I would love to not do that.
For having the epidural and all of that, it was the fact that
I'm surprised you felt that.
well, it wore off. And I don't know if it was because I dilated so quickly or just what the hell happened, but I felt the last part where it's transition that you're talking about. And I just remember in birthing classes, they called it the ring of fire.
Yes.
Who thought that was a good idea?
But isn't that what it feels like?
What in the Finding Nemo?
Yeah, but she came out so fast that you probably didn't feel it. You probably didn't feel it.
Oh, I felt it. But not
I felt that. For all intents and purposes, I had 2 fairly traumatic births. Not going to go through full birth stories. If you guys want to hear them, you can ask me on Instagram. I'll share them. It's just time consuming. But my doctor, nurses, no one was talking to me during the birth of my second. So I had no idea what was happening. And I was like, this has got to be Ring of Fire. I was like, if this is not Ring of Fire and it gets worse than this, I quit. And no one's like, keep going. We see his head. Like there's nothing happening. And then a couple seconds later, maybe like 2 or 3 pushes later, all of it went away. All the urge to push. And I was like, cool, pretty sure I just had a baby. No one friggin' said anything.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no,
so why do I want another baby? Maybe it's for some redemption. My God. The chosen one here.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, this child better be the chosen one. You're my redemption story, kid. No pressure. I am kidding, you guys. I am kidding. Sort of.
Okay, let's take a hard right here.
Yeah.
And talk about something that I'm very passionate about.
Yes. What is that?
As some of you may know, I survived the Great War of 2022 with Ticketmaster. Me and my homies all hate Ticketmaster. And I got tickets to
Taylor Swift.
Yee!
Are you 15?
No, I'm 13.
I'm sorry. Continue your story.
50s look at it. It's fine. Anyway, so we get tickets to the Denver show. Very excited about going. One of the big things that also goes along with this era's concert and the entire tour is what you're going to wear and how you're going to dress up, because people don't just wear a t-shirt and show up at the concert. It is full-on cosplay in the Taylor Swift lexicon. Like it's a big deal. We're really excited for this, right? And I had this idea as I was getting ready, because people go all out, that the last time I remember Taylor being in Denver wasn't for her concerts. She was here for the Red Tour and the Reputation Tour. But what I really remember is her being in Denver for her trial. And everything that went along with that, not as a Taylor Swift fan, but as a victim advocate in Colorado who is watching this unfold on an entertainment level scale. Like people would stand outside of the courthouse in the mornings hoping to get the lottery number to get inside to watch what was happening in the courtroom. And I just remember being horrified by that. Some of the victim advocates who were actually working on that case talked about how intense and just dehumanizing the entire experience was. And that's something that we can all relate to, right? Is people look at it as entertainment instead of the fact that it is trauma and pain. And so I've always really appreciated the way that she handled this entire spectacle, but also what she did in the wake of just a complete shitstorm that was not her fault. If you read the Time People of the Year or Person of the Year, when it was the silence breakers during the Me Too movement, she was included in that. She had countersued for $1. She won. And so a lot of fans on the first anniversary had held up these dollar bills in Tampa. And she talks about it. Let's go back to the principles of what we do here. The things that we're going to talk about are first person. She has authorization over. There's a call to action. There are resources. And she has made a very generous donation many times over to different organizations that also support victims. Fantastic. So my idea is I was thinking through my outfit, which I'm not going to share until I actually put it together and wear. But the dollar bill is really symbolic because she countersued for $1. You have to countersue at least for some monetary amount. And it was more for the principle of the matter. It was saying, you can't do this. If I am someone standing here who is famous and wealthy and connected and can be believed, what are you going to do to somebody who isn't? So I thought, how cool would it be if Taylor Swift fans took their dollar bills to make this Denver memory hopefully a happy one and show that support to other people, to the other survivors that are in the audience who maybe haven't found their voice or haven't spoken up. And so I put a little video out on TikTok about it, and people are going nuts. And I'm really excited because other people are going to bring their dollar bills. And it's not something that's super in your face that we're going to make this whole concert about sexual assault or victimization. Instead, this is just one more thing where we're taking back the power. And now here's the call to action, is to have those dollar bills and take them and donate them, whether it is in Taylor Swift's name, in your own name, anonymously, however you want to do it. Put those dollars to use and donate to one of the nonprofits that completely supports victims, survivors, people who are serving those populations, underserved or at-risk communities, whoever you decide. I put some stuff up on my website just about, like, obviously EVA and the Start by Believing campaign. And then there's some Colorado-centric ones that people can donate to if they're going to be at the Denver concert. But what a great way to get involved. And it's not a huge monetary commitment. My thought process, though, is that if we can shell out tons and tons of money to freaking Ticketmaster to go see one of our favorite artists, we can surely pony up $1 or $2 for survivors and the people who are going to support them. So anyway, if you are going to participate, you can use the hashtag Denver Taylor's version. I know for a fact we have some major Swiftie listeners, and I'm really excited for that.
Well, that's really awesome. And I'm glad that you're doing that. And I think that it's really cool that you're using something that you're passionate about to activate people about other things that you're passionate about. So proud of you, Fran.
Yeah. I also want to be really clear, though, that I'm not trying to go into what happened to her trauma, her thoughts about it. This is specifically just as a show of support, whether it's for her or all of the other survivors. I think that could get easily lost upon some folks. I had a few people that were like, what if that triggers her? Thankfully, it is something that she's already addressed. Fans have done it at other concerts, and she directly talks about it in her own documentary that she executive produced and had rights over. We've talked about that many times. But she talks about this. She said it at the shows, and then she played her song Clean, which if you have not heard and you listen to it through this lens, it can be a tearjerker.
I watched a video with her talking about how she got basically really obsessed with hiding things in her lyrics. Like, I think she was on Jimmy Kimmel. I mean, not Jimmy Kimmel. I always say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Fallon. I think she was on Jimmy Fallon, and she was talking about how it all started and how, like, when she was younger, used to read the whole insert on CDs and how she would hide little messages and stuff, and how she's like so obsessed with it now. I was like, that's kind of funny. Like, I knew that she did that, but I didn't know the origin of it. So
yeah, that's exactly how it first started, and why fans knew who the songs were about is because she'd capitalize the letters. And so you'd spell out whatever the word was and kind of put together a puzzle. And that's where the mastermind began.
it's so crazy.
I love it so much.
We are so thankful for all of your support. We're also supported by Cured.
They are a supplement company that is changing the industry standard for how supplements are made. They are products that I use every day that have genuinely changed my life.
Kara, of course, is the one who introduced me to them, and I was a little hesitant at first, but I can say after using their products for the last couple of months, I'm hooked.
My favorites that I think everyone should try and will love are the Serenity, Zen, and Rise. Serenity gummies have ashwagandha, L-theanine, and CBD. They're going to help you to just relax, take the edge off at the end of a long day or whenever you need it. Zen is going to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and sleep soundly. Hallelujah. And Rise is going to give you sustained energy and focus without caffeine or without a crash.
I was really hesitant to try anything I view as a sleep aid, but I can say after incorporating Zen into my nighttime routine, I am getting such better sleep.
Yes. And for all of our listeners, you can use code KARA10. Go to curednutrition.com or go to the link in our show notes to take you straight to the website. We hope that you love it as much as we do. So something that if you follow me, we're switching gears again. If you follow me on Instagram or TikTok, you will have seen a few videos. And this kind of goes off of Kim using something that she's passionate about to do something different. I have always been like, all the way back to college, my friends in college called me like Technology Center because I was just like, I've always been like a little bit of a nerd about operating systems. And I used to like jailbreak my BlackBerry. And if you know what that means, you are my people. And shout out
you
to
probably
Derek,
need an ice cream.
like, right? Shout out to Derek, who like helped me unbrick who is like a friend that literally, it's like one of those, I made a friend with a stranger online, but it turned out okay stories.
It's me. Hi.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure my friend Derek, who's like one of my good friends now, and I'm pretty sure we met on like BlackBerry forums because y'all, this is why Kim and I are not the same in some ways. I'm pretty sure he and I met on BlackBerry forums, and then we ended up talking on like BlackBerry Messenger, and he's just always been like a friend. So anyway, all that to say, I've always been a little bit of a technology nerd, and Derek has saved me so many times. Like the number of times I got messages from him and he would be like, how did you do this? I'm like, I got bad luck. I don't know. But really, it's just like ADHD. And I'm just like, click, 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 click,
Click happy.
Yeah. So you should probably not jailbreak your devices if you don't read all the instructions. But anyway, so I am also the person that sits and watches all of the Apple keynotes for the developers conference, the worldwide developers conference.
Me too.
Yeah, but the developers conference one too, that's the one that just came out. It's all about operating systems, basically.
But I didn't watch that one, but I have watched them before.
Yeah. So I always like, this would be like my Super Bowl twice a year, Apple conferences. I would like, we're live streaming it. I'm going to be looking at Boy Genius the days leading up to it to see what leaks he's got. Like, it's stupid, guys, but I love it. So anyway, this year I watched WWDC, which is the Worldwide Developers Conference that Apple does in the spring, early summer. And I haven't watched it in a few years, but I was really impressed by some of the things that Apple is doing with the developers conference this year and the updates they're bringing to the new operating systems. So now these operating systems, I'm going to tell you about the changes and the things that I thought were pretty cool. These things aren't out yet, just so you know. Hasn't happened yet.
Wait, are these confirmed or are they rumored?
Yeah, these were actually on the keynote, or they're on Apple's website. So these are confirmed things that will be coming to Apple devices, but I don't have like some inside line where I have to look at my list, of course, but I don't have some inside line where I know when they're coming or anything like that. So the first thing that I saw that I thought was pretty cool is they're integrating into the help feature a journal. So there's a whole journaling app that's part of that. And it automatically integrates like the weather, your photos you took, it'll give you prompts. So if you're someone who's like, hates journaling, but knows that it's good for you, like myself, that's super cool. That's a great mental health tool. It's a great tool to learn more about yourself. Part of that is they're also doing, as part of the mindfulness app, I'm sure that this is going to be integrated, falls underneath the health and fitness section of Apple. There's like an emotional check-in. What's cool about that is they didn't just say, how are you feeling? Tell me how you're feeling. They also put little images and colors with the images that you can scroll through. They focused on it on the watch, but that's going to be part of the help section. So if you're someone who has a hard time identifying your feelings because you've dissociated from them so long, like myself, that's a really cool feature. Another feature that I really, really liked, and this is kind of the first thing that caught my eye, actually. Some other apps have done something similar, but I like that this is inbound. You don't have to have an extra app that you have to pay for or anything like that. There's a check-in feature. So if Kim says, text me when you get home, I'm not going to remember. So you can automatically say, check in with Kim when you get home, and it will basically figure out how long it's supposed to take you to get from there to home. If you don't text that person within that window, it will let them know. And if you don't respond, it will send that person your location, if your phone's connected to the network, what the battery status is, when was the last time it was connected to the network. Yeah, how cool is that, right? So it'll automatically tell them if you're home, or if you're not, it will automatically give them information. So I had a couple people that responded to the video that I made about that. They're like, that sounds like a great tool for stalkers, though, or for abusive.
Okay.
Yeah, is that what you were going to say? Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you're talking about it, I'm like, it's really cool, especially like for teenagers or parenting wise. And then I'm like, oh God, what if it's someone who is a manipulative, abusive partner?
Yeah. So it's something that you, from what I saw and what I understood, it's something that you manually turn on that someone else doesn't turn on for you. So it's like from my phone, I would say, check in with Kim when I get home. Basically, I would click it. So someone else couldn't do that for you. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, it totally does. I'm thinking more, yes, you manually check it, but how many things do you manually do because of coercion or threats or fear of what will happen if we don't?
Well,
so yeah,
the fact of the matter is,
and there's no way around that.
It's kind of like my opinion about other things that people want to make illegal or they want to do this. It's like, if someone is intent on breaking the law, putting more laws around that thing is not going to keep them from doing that thing. right? So like if someone is intent on being abusive, yes, this could be a tool, but it's not going to prevent them from doing that if this tool
Right.
didn't exist. So, I mean, yes, it could be used for that, but I try to focus on all the really amazing things that are coming. Other things that I thought were cool, there's a feature on the watch that is going to monitor your time in daylight every day. So they highlighted it specifically because, I know, 0 minutes.
Oh no. Like,
Yeah.
we see you've been goblin mode for how long?
Yeah. Yeah. So they highlighted it specifically because they were talking about vision and how they're trying to be more protective of vision. And so spending time outside in natural daylight is something that's protective of your vision long term. But I automatically thought of it. This kind of goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about cortisol and cortisol regulation. So being out in the sun, it's natural cortisol regulation. So one of the first signs of out of balance cortisol is at night. Whenever it's time to go to sleep, you feel wired but tired. So you're tired, you know you need to go to sleep, but your brain's just like, and then you also often get tired. The first kind of dip in cortisol that you'll see is you'll get tired between 2 and 3. And then as it continues on, you can have another dip in the morning, like 9, 10, 11-ish. Usually it's around 10. So one of the ways to balance that is to basically use sunlight to help regulate your cortisol. So see if I can make this not 20 minutes long. Your cortisol and your melatonin are inversely related. So one goes up, the other one goes down. Everybody nowadays, I think, knows what melatonin does. It helps you sleep. Cortisol is your stress hormone. It responds to stress in your body. It allows you to be alert and functioning basically during the day. So whenever you're out in sunlight, it signals your body, now is the time to produce cortisol. Whenever you expose yourself to blue light, specifically, your TV, your phone, your computer, etc., in the evening, that also signals your body it's time to produce cortisol. So your melatonin decreases. So I was really excited about this time in daylight because I like easy, simple, free, accessible ways to help manage your stress. And that's one of those. So you can monitor if you're spending time in daylight. It's a tool to help you kind of manage that stress. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Hold on. I was talking too much.
Don't throw up. Cross your legs.
Cross your legs. Close your mouth. Okay. 3 other things that I thought were cool. AirPods Pro, they're changing their basically ambient noise sensing. So they had 2 forms of noise sensing where you can either hear through it or you can not hear through. So are they active noise canceling where they're canceling out all the noise, or is it where you can hear through the noise and still hear your music or whatever? So they are actually introducing a new feature, adaptive audio. So it adapts to, like, if someone comes up to you and they say, hey, they say something to you, you can hear it. So it's constantly listening. It's kind of like AI noise canceling. So my number one tip, whenever you're out, don't wear both your freaking headphones. Okay. But people are gonna do it anyway. They're gonna do it. So if you're gonna do it, at least AirPods Pro will automatically listen for things that you might need to pay attention to. Now, I don't know how well that's going to function. I don't know the applications for, if somebody runs up on you, that kind of thing. But I thought that's a good place to start for personal safety. All these things popped up for me for some reason because of stress, trauma, personal safety, etc. The next thing that I saw that was pretty cool is Apple's had the ability to download offline maps for quite a while. And I think they introduced this in iOS 16 maybe, but they are introducing offline maps. They've had SOS calling too. That's the other thing that they introduced, I think, with 16. So if you don't know about that, you can download offline maps. So even if you're out of cellular service, out of your carrier, you can access those maps, but you can also very often make an SOS call. Even if you're out of your carrier's coverage, you can access cell towers, other carriers, and things like that. And so now the watch is actually going to have the ability to access those offline maps. And they highlighted it under the hiking feature. So if you're hiking, you can download those offline maps. And then what you can also do is if you're out of service and something happens, you can see where the closest location is that you can connect to either SOS services, like on other carriers, or your network, and you can navigate to it from where you are. So I thought that was pretty cool for obvious reasons. Like if you're out by yourself hiking, something happens, you know where the closest location is. So you're never really like totally out of touch. And then the last one that I've seen a lot of people talking about online, this one wasn't in the keynote. It's kind of hidden away in the website, and I found it combing through it. But they are automatically going to be recognizing sensitive photos and notifying you that they're being sent, but also blocking them on children's devices. Now, there are some issues with the ages. I think they're only doing it up to age 12. A lot of people have said, can we get that increased? I would imagine what they're going to do is automatically block up to 12 in the settings. If it's a device that's registered to someone that is 12 or under, it will automatically be blocked. Anything that is deemed as a sensitive photo. I would imagine the ability to do that further. It is already under the Family Control Center, I think, on your settings. So when you open up your settings, it literally says family. So that's where you can control your family settings. So what I would imagine is they're going to introduce that underneath the family, where if your child is over 12, but you still want those sensitive photos blocked, then it will do that. And they are also porting that out on a developer's kit so that it can be used on external apps. So really cool stuff. Yeah, right? Finally. So I was just really proud as someone who is like in this world now. I was really proud of Apple for making all these changes. Like they don't have to do any of these things. They introduced the App Store. Like they're the ones who started this whole thing. There's a million freaking apps. There are apps that do all of these things, but I think it's really cool to put these tools in people's hands where it's like, hey, you already have this device. You've already paid for this device. Let's make these life-saving, life-changing tools free. You just have them. So I was really, really proud of all of those changes. And I thought that maybe some of you would be interested in those as parents. And probably a lot of you own iPhones. I think most people do.
My mom doesn't.
Well, I strong-armed my husband into getting an iPhone again because I was like, listen, tired of the green bubbles.
Oh, I'm happy to be part of that shaming club too.
Yeah,
but
he was hardcore shame.
I think there's an element of social responsibility that goes along with being that big of a tech giant too. And I think Katie did a really good job of talking about this when she was on the podcast. I would love to have her back to go through some of these releases once they've been out for a little while.
Yeah.
And I think that there's just a public awareness and that pressure to get people in those positions to do the right thing, as opposed to maybe a former style of leadership or something where now we don't have to because we're a business.
Right.
Or whatever they want to say. So
yeah,
public pressure really does make a difference.
Yeah, it does, for sure. I mean, when you talk about wanting to make a change, it's like from the top down, but it's also from the bottom up. Like it's that sandwich effect. But I saw a video also on TikTok, but it's an app that, of course, the name slips my mind. Basically, if it's a button that you activate and you hold down the button, if your finger is taken off of the button at any point, you have 10 seconds to enter your code. And if you don't, it automatically will notify law enforcement with like all your information. Isn't that cool?
Huh.
Yeah.
I actually really, really like that one.
Yeah. So you just put your finger on the app.
It's an awareness grenade.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. So I'll find the information for that app. Not affiliated with it. I just saw that video, in the past 3 days when I've been scrolling a lot. It popped up and I thought that was really cool too. So
if you're looking for some real world application here too, I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast or not. When I first got my Apple Watch, it's been about 3 or 4 years now. It had the heart rate monitor on it, right? And it'll alert you if your heart rate spikes.
Yeah.
It was not until I was wearing that watch that I learned my seizures are associated with my heart rate and that it will spike right before I have a seizure episode. And it has helped in an immense way, almost as like a last minute alert. And it gives me something to look at and focus on so that I can do my EMDR, my breathing, my calming techniques to get through that. But there's some kind of validation in seeing that. Like it's not all in my head. My body is reacting to something. Here's what I need to focus on to get myself calmed back down. And that's been helpful. The other one that's been helpful is the fall sensor. And every once in a while, it'll go off. Oh my gosh, we were cheering at a Buffs game. And I'm like, I jumped up and down when they had a touchdown. And it's like, it looks like you've taken a fall. I was like, no, dismiss.
Yeah.
I did have a seizure at one point and Mike was not right with me. And I sadly on that one, I ended up falling and my watch called 911. And that's how, they come in. I should have the frequent flyer card by now. I know this. They don't happen often at all. But that's how Mike was alerted to that happening. And it can be life-saving, even if it is something I don't want to say is simple, or
I mean, it's not simple.
I don't want to minimize that experience.
No,
But if I were alone or in distress,
it is a simple tool. Yeah. Simple doesn't mean that it's not impactful.
yep, that is a great way to put it. So I was thankful for that.
Yeah. One of the things as you were talking, I was reminded of that I didn't say about the check-in feature and this is with the emotion side of it. It automatically integrates with your health data. So if you are tracking your sleep, your fitness, or like your cycle, if you're a woman, it will automatically overlay your moods and emotions with those so that you can identify anything that may be impacting your mood. So I just thought about that as you were saying, that it was really validating to be able to see that information. That may be something that's really helpful for people too, where it's like, oh, I think as women, we can often become first aware of how maybe our hormones impact our mood with our cycle, right? But to be able to see those other things, whatever that looks like for you, or, like maybe I'm not sad, maybe I'm just tired. So I think that's something interesting too that I forgot to mention.
I'm going to have an extra button to click. Were you surrounded by assholes all day? Yes, that could impact you.
So it allows you to log anything else that could be impacting that. So like, were you with family? Were you, like where you are, what you're doing. So you can add those details and then it'll begin to, recognize patterns and stuff. So it's just the beauty of technology. Sometimes it can get kind of scary with the technology and like the things that it's able to do. But also when you look at it with the lens of stuff like this, you're like, man, this is really friggin' cool.
I know. I'm just kind of sitting here processing through all of that. And I'm sure I will think of something later. Not when I'm falling asleep, though, because I don't have thoughts. I just go to bed.
Y'all know I don't have an internal dialogue, just birds a chirping up there.
Well, we will return you to your normally scheduled programming, most likely next week. Fingers crossed that Kara does not keep throwing up and getting sick over all of the things. And
yeah, y'all.
Am I allowed to go on record yet?
What?
Place your bets, your wagers.
Oh, if it's a girl or a boy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you're sure. Go
I can keep it to myself too.
Listen, I probably am not going to keep it like super secret because that's not who I am.
Right.
So honestly, I'll probably do the same thing as I did when I found out I was pregnant. I'll tell the people closest to me, but I want to find out ASAP. I've had a couple of questions, a couple of people who are like, are you going to find out? I'm like, yes, I want to find out right now.
The second I asked, I was like, no, you can't. You are incapable. Like, there's knowledge to be had. I'm going to have it immediately or I'm going to go nuts.
Bro.
But my call right now.
What is it, girl?
I am assuming far more than 50%. I would say with 85% certainty, I think it's a girl.
I think so too, honestly. But, if it's not, that's rad too. I was showing the boys videos of both of them when they were like,
you're an epic boy mom.
Yeah, right. I was showing the boys videos of when they were like 3 and 1 this morning and they were loving watching them. And I was like, I would be totally okay with another little boy. My boys are so cute. Oh my God. And my littlest one especially. Oh my God, he was so chunky and smiley and happy and just, oh my God. But yeah, that was like one of my hesitations whenever I was like, oh, if I have a home birth, can I still find out like super early? Like if I go with a midwife, you can.
Why wouldn't you?
Listen, you might not know this because it's been about as long since you've had kids as it has since I've had kids. When did you find out what you were having? Like 20 weeks, right? Unless you did the genetic testing.
We did not do genetic testing. For the first, he was a surprise. So we waited until he was born to find out.
I didn't know that. How? I did not know that.
It's one of the last few great surprises left in life. And so I waited. And then when I got pregnant, very soon thereafterwards, it was like, okay, that's enough of that in itself is a surprise. We need to find out. And so first for me was a surprise. Second, we found out at 20 weeks.
Yeah. So 20 weeks was the standard back then. Did you know you can find out via just a blood test at like 9 weeks now?
Yeah, you could find out right now. I know. I'm shocked, actually, that you are not standing outside of that doctor's door like, hello,
right?
Please.
I know.
Right now. Our daughter still calls it a ginger reveal. I'm like, is that where you find out if they're a redhead or not? Okay.
Surprise. You find out that for a while.
So since this is still one of our episodes, let's end with our call to action.
Pet your dog.
Pet your dogs.
That's my call to action. Pet your dog. Otherwise, they bother you.
Mine is to take your $1 or however many dollars you'd like and donate it as part of Denver Taylor's version. And use that hashtag on social media, just in any capacity. I don't own it. I don't think anybody does, just for funsies. One last plug. I finished it. I texted Remy immediately with just kudos all over the place. It was, oh my gosh, so good. So impressed. So happy with how he tied it all together. It reinvigorated my passion for writing. I loved how he told the story. And it's like a loving, incredible courtroom drama, if you will, that just solidifies everything about why it's so important to speak out and the impacts that it can have. So congratulations, Remy. We loved it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We will talk to you again next week. Kara, enjoy your vomiting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna not do that. I'm just gonna keep my eyes on the horizon and have a ginger candy.
Don't throw up. Cross your legs. Don't push.
Put on some C-bands and I'll probably be fine.
Oh, God. Enjoy that. I'm going to go do literally anything else.
Okay. Love you guys. See you next week. Okay, bye.
Survivor's Guide to True Crime is hosted and executive produced by Kimberly Corbin Rourke and Kara Robinson Chamberlain.
If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find the show.
To learn more about the guests featured or to find resources and information discussed on the show, visit survivorsguidetotruecrime.com.
Thanks for listening.
Well, see you later.
Ghost farts.